I had a light bulb moment that I feel will change the trajectory of my year. I want to preface this video by saying I will be talking about astrology. I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, but personally I have found it like super beneficial learning about planetary transits, the energies that each planet possesses and the themes associated with them. And when you know like what transits are happening or like planetary effects, then you're able to work with the energy, because it's like it's happening regardless. So we can choose to work with the energy or unknowingly be working against it by not being up to speed with what's going on. So if it's not your cup of tea, I still love you. I hope you enjoy the video. Otherwise, let's get into it. So in my last video, I mentioned to you guys that this is an 8 year and what that represents. 8 is associated with material success, abundance. But what I didn't know at the time is that this is a Saturn ruled year, and that number and Saturn go hand in hand. This is important. Let me tell you why. You guys know I'm super excited about it being the top of the year, to have a fresh start, to set my sights on things and work towards them steadily. I love New Year energy. Even if it's just the Gregorian New Year and it's inaccurate, whatever, I do believe that whenever we are collectively like focused on something, giving it energy, then that is what it is. I think we do that with a lot of things, but I do believe the mind is so powerful. If you believe that something has the power to change or heal or restore or block, it might just do that. Even if it's not real, you might just trick yourself into operating differently, changing your frequency and aligning with different outcomes. Do you know what I mean? Said all that to say, I don't care if it is the dead of the winter and it's not the real new year. I set the intention to give myself a clean slate this month, you know? So in doing that, I have like a really long to-do list. It's not that long, but it's like, imagine a bullet point list, but then there's little dashes. Like everything has little annoying things to do associated with it. So yes, needless to say, I've already run into some obstacles and I've already had to go back to the drawing board. That's okay. If you haven't heard this yet this year, go back to the drawing board as many times as you need to. If you take a wrong turn, it's best to go back, revise, take the lessons, fix it and move forward than to try to breeze past. I think that is one of the biggest lessons this year in particular. So with this year being ruled by Saturn, Saturn of all the planets is like the father of the zodiac. Like there are planets for wisdom, for love, your career, that rule like your mind and your dreams and then there's Saturn, who means business. Saturn is associated with discipline, boundaries, responsibilities, limitations, restrictions. Walk with me. So while it is an 8 year, abundance, success, prosperity, all the good things, with it being ruled by Saturn, you first have to do some housekeeping. You first have to go back and revise some things, pay off debts, taxes, delay gratification, put the fun things on hold and prioritize your responsibilities. Work hard, be dedicated, see things through to completion. That is the energy of Saturn. So it represents karma. And I know most people associate karma with negativity, but karma is also good. What I realized once I connected the dots between it being an 8 year also ruled by Saturn is that the good things will follow laying a solid foundation and doing the groundwork. Do you know what I mean? There's no way around it. There is no way around it. And if you try to take a shortcut and wiggle out of like responsibility or wiggle out of committing to something fully, then it's like you'll be hit with a ruler by Saturn, which can look like losing a job or being hit with a ticket or eviction or something. You know what I'm saying? Like that is what repercussions from Saturn look like. That's why it's so important to surrender and work with the energy as opposed to trying to bypass the lessons and themes surrounding responsibility, discipline, things like that. So I wanted to share that information because my brain was like, y'all should have told me. But the good thing is the sooner that we get clear about what needs to be taken care of, what needs to be rectified before moving forward, or what needs to be obtained before moving forward, then we can handle it all in one swoop. Not necessarily doing everything on the list, but getting very clear about what needs to be done, because realistically, not everything can be taken care of in one day. You know, if it's a bill or if it's a ticket, half of the work would be totaling everything up down to the penny. You know, so at least you have a clear target for your next couple weeks of work. or if your intention is to get a car or a house or whatever, then learning the qualifications and going step by step through the list to make sure that you have the necessary documents. Or again, if you don't have everything necessary, you get a clear target, you know? Like, I think that sometimes personally, whenever I don't really understand something, I tend to ignore it and hope that it goes away. And that is not ideal, that is not mature. I'm working on that. The problem with ignoring things like in hopes that it kind of dissolves or like takes care of itself is that it never does. It never does. And the longer you go without nipping something in the bud, it like snowballs. Like, apply it to what fits, but ignoring your problems, that does not make them go away. We have a conduit of energy. I mentioned the book, The Energy of Money, right? Things left unaddressed or unattended to add sludge and mud to the conduit, so we aren't fully able to receive. Does that make sense? So things are supposed to be in motion at all times, you know? Like, if something is brought to your awareness, the sooner you can handle it, the better, in order to make space for new things. We only have so much bandwidth. Do you know what I mean? So that is something that I am forced, it's not even like, oh, I'll get around. I am forcing myself to do today, mind you, because I have goals, I want more, I have my sights set on like my desires, but I understand anything that I'm trying to build has to be built on a solid foundation, or as soon as the wind blows, it'll crumble. Saturn is about laying a solid foundation. So while it is an 8-year and it's like, hey, you know, Saturn is like, first things first. It requires you to put in the work and not ignore like the logistic side of things or like the administrative side of things, you know? It's like, yeah, you can go, yeah, you can have that, you can do that after you do your homework, like literally. So today I am doing my homework. Another thing associated with Saturn is sacrifice and patience. So it's basically delaying temporary pleasures for long-term success. Do you know what I mean? Saturn doesn't care about the shoes that you saw that are on sale or the archive piece that was pulled that you could only get, right? Saturn is like, do your taxes. But there are two sides to every coin. So it's like, once you master those lessons, it's more fulfilling and like freeing to step into a new season knowing that you took care of business and did the groundwork. Do you know what I mean? I personally want to show God that I am a great steward, that I am responsible, that I am capable, and that I'm ready and willing to do the work, so that I can be ushered into a new season. But it also literally relieves so much thought and time and space. Just nip things in the bud. But I also wanted to talk about something else that I realized. We talked about the boring work that we need to do. And for those things, clarity and being detail oriented is the most important thing. As soon as you can see it clearly, face it head on and tackle it. Lists and planning and things work for that stuff. But I have an opinion. So we know that there is so much talk about productivity and things, especially at the top of the year, right? It's like a lot of pressure on entrepreneurs to perform. And what I found is that for me personally, passion can't be planned. I feel like my best output and work comes from being genuinely inspired, or like how I had a light bulb moment I'm coming back to share with you guys. Like, that was organic. I feel like organic thoughts and organic inspiration yields the best results for me personally. And so I just wanted to share, in case anyone else wants to take this approach, I have decided not to plan passion. It doesn't work for me, but instead plan and make time to get inspired. So for me, that's reading, praying, and journaling. Those are things that I know without a shadow of a doubt, you could fill in the spaces for what works for you, but for me, after I pray, instant relief. Like, I literally feel weight off my shoulders. I could have been crying for 30 minutes, but when I pray, it's like, okay, at least God's working on that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that works for me. And it opens me up to be in a mode of receptivity. I think that is where my disconnect is with this culture, is that I personally prefer to embrace femininity and just be, as opposed to masculinity and always doing. I feel like as a woman, I'm highly intuitive, very receptive, very connected to source. And I learned that when I'm still and just receptive to whatever God has for me to do or to say, That has always worked better than spinning my wheels. If you don't resonate with like putting so much pressure on yourself to perform, and you're like me and you need to feel it, you need to be passionate about it, then don't force it. If you're gonna put pressure on yourself about anything, put pressure on yourself to make time to receive inspiration. That is enough to inspire you into action. If you were uninspired and then you read a book, I promise you by the time you close the book, you'll have an idea, or you'll have some direction, or at least you'll be charged up, ready to think of a plan, you know? But that is something that I've realized, is that passion can't be planned for me. My camera's overheating a bit, so hopefully it doesn't cut off. But yeah, I'd rather plan to be in a posture to receive, you know? So that looks like setting an alarm for prayer, which I'm gonna do right now. Like, I'm not playing. Then also just making it a point to journal, because as I write, I can only speak for myself, but as I write, things come to me. Ideas, words, you know, and words, that's something that I learned from this book by Rick Rubin. What is it called? The Creative Act. Things as small as like a word that you overhear could be the catalyst for an entire project or video concept or things like that, you know? So that's why writing can really be beneficial to receiving ideas if your job entails thinking of ideas, you know? Logistics, we need a plan, we need a list, things like that. But as it relates to passion, I highly recommend planning to receive instead, so that the work can be authentic, so that the work can be organic, you know? Because I think that that's where we're getting lost digitally. A lot of people are starting to reject like social media and content creation, things like that, because it's inauthentic and you can feel it. But I feel like that's come as a result of creators being pressured to perform. So whenever you're doing things routinely just because you are trying to be relevant, then obviously it's not gonna hit the same, because it's like, this was just on your schedule, checking this off your list, you know? Do the things that fuel you, which productivity will come as a result of that anyway. So yes, I just wanted to share all of that. As soon as I cut this camera off, I have my own list of things to do, and I will do them by end of day. I will report back next time I talk to you guys. But I love you guys so much. If you're new here, please be sure to subscribe. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram. It's down below. Like, and you don't have to comment, I don't care. Love you. See you next time.